Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we are going to be talking about the IPL. Before we do that, though, I'm going to click the button which records the podcast so that people on audio can listen to it later. So here we go.
Recording in progress.
And again, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we're going to be talking about the most insane week that I can remember in the IPL, or the most insane start to a week anyway. We were doing the game today where we had Dhoni magic. But just not quite enough Dhoni magic to get him over the line. Then we were talking about yesterday where Tim David and Cam Green managed to get 5 off the last over in a thriller. That was an astonishing game in itself. And then we'll be talking about a game that was even better than both of those two games, Max. There's 3 games in a row that went down to the last ball. This was a 1-wicket win. I think it's the first 1-wicket win in 3 years.
Also 5 runs off the final over.
Yeah. Absolute,
the magic number.
Absolute carnage this week in the IPL. Absolute carnage.
And that's, I wasn't there, but obviously the other day was the Rinku Singh madness as well. So it's a run.
Well, I mean, honestly,
4 days in a row.
I thought up to the Rinku Singh game, we've been having a decent IPL. It'd been interesting, but we hadn't had those kind of, mad, insane drama moments that we've come to expect. We've had 4 of them in 5 games.
You know what they say? Mad, crazy IPL drama moments are like London buses.
Absolutely astonishing. Right, Max, before we kick off, we're just going to say to everybody who has tuned in on YouTube, click like, click subscribe, and say hello in the chat. We've had an early super chat from Sudeep, and we'll get to that probably a little bit later in the show because it doesn't quite tie in with the top bit, but I will remember it. Generally interact. Tell all your friends. It's a good day to tell a friend about the podcast. There's a lot to talk about. In this episode, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about the game that just finished first. Then we'll probably go back in chronological order, do yesterday, then do Monday.
Yeah.
And it's Analytics Wednesday. Every Wednesday, third part of the show, we talk about some numbers, some trends, some cricket nerdy stuff. I've got a good nugget about sixes and the direction of T20 cricket and what this year's IPL tells us about where that's going. What are you going to be talking about, Max?
I'm here in defence of Harry Brook. That's what I'm going for today.
Oh, right, cool.
Unfortunately, my original plan didn't work because we don't have CricViz as a subscription.
Yeah. What we need is somebody who's really good at scraping data off the web because we know where CricViz lives. We can't get it. So if you know, then at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Max, the cricket that just finished was between the Chennai Super Kings and the Rajasthan Royals. Ross described it as game of the tournament so far. In a preview, not during the game. Like I said, this is going to be the most exciting game. It did live up to the billing. What happened in 25 seconds for anybody who, for some reason, doesn't know.
Yeah, well, close to game of the tournament in reality, but for everything that preceded it over the last 3 days. What happened is we were at the Chepauk and Chennai Chepauk themselves, essentially. Rajasthan batted well. They got off to a quick start. Theekshana was back, didn't make much of a difference. And it was another Joss Buttler show. But Padikkal came back and found a bit of form, batting number 3, but finding himself in the power play. And Shimron Hetmyer came in and bashed some runs at the end. It was very much Rajasthan Royals template, just a slightly lower number than you're used to. But hey, it's at the Chepauk, so 175, pretty good. In response, CSK didn't really do very much for a while. Jinky Rahane aside, who's apparently someone else now, until the final over, or the final 2 overs. They needed 40 off 2, and they didn't get far away because turns out MS Dhoni going to the army has made him 20 years younger.
They do say that if you hit the gym, you can improve your metabolism. You can certainly put on strength, and we've been admiring.
We saw that.
We've been admiring Dhoni's guns. He came in today, Max. I don't know if you heard this on commentary. I only mentioned it once, I think. This was his 200th game as captain of Chennai Super Kings.
Really? No, that must have slipped me by.
He came in at number 8. I think they did 63 off 30. That might be a little bit wrong. It was ballpark that. Took his time to get going. I think it's fair to say, there are still some facets of Dhoni's game which really stand up. Against spin probably isn't one of them. I think over the last couple of years he's slowed down a bit there. But he did enough to theoretically make it possible. And then all hell broke loose, didn't it, Max? He rolled back the years, big style. Jadeja at the other end pumping sixes as well.
It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if they'd moved slightly earlier?
Well, yeah. I mean, I thought Max, with 7 required off 3 balls, they were going to do it. I mean, you must have believed as a Chennai fan.
Oh, 100%. Just needed the one blow, didn't it? And not only 7 off 3, when you consider that it was 21 off 6, and then the first ball that's poor Sandy bowled, which I mean, it was called a wide. Did it land on the cut strip? I mean, I'm reviewing. I want to know ball for that one.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean it could have been a game changer. It wasn't wide. It really. I mean, I think props have to go. Dhoni and Jadeja, it was miraculous that they managed to drag it back from the brink. I think 54 off 18 was what they required with 3 overs, and they managed to get that down to 7 off 3, which the batting team probably normally wins. To be honest, major props has to go to Sandeep Sharma for getting his wiry frame in front of that runaway train. It was like Spider-Man 2.
What was it? Wide 6-6.
I think it was wide 6-6. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
he bowls
three Yorkers in a row.
Magic Yorkers. It was. I mean, my analogy, Max. Have you seen Spider-Man 2, the original, Tobey Maguire?
Yeah.
You know when he stops a subway train that's been what do you call it? Malfunctioned, destroyed, busted up by Dr. Octopus. Yeah. And like he kind of holds it back like that. I had those kind of vibes. Against all of the odds. Except that Sandeep Sharma isn't actually Spider-Man. He's Sandeep Sharma. Like it would imagine if it's more like this. Imagine if Peter Parker, before he became Spider-Man, pulled that off. I think we're talking like
somewhere between
that much of a swing in momentum. It also, this is a personal hobby horse of mine, but it also puts paid to the idea that I think that pressure is a big factor. This was like a perfect illustration of.
You're telling me pressure didn't have anything to do with that first delivery?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying like, if you want to make that argument, then what do you say that wasn't the right amount of pressure? He needed a bit more pressure, and that's when he became good. Like what's your logical argument here? I'm saying that Sandeep Sharma, probably the ball was a bit dewy, and he held onto it a bit hard and bowled a terrible ball.
But he didn't let it get to him.
But he didn't
Someone might have,
because he's a professional cricketer and it's his job.
Well, I don't know.
He executed his skills. Sometimes he won't do that. Sometimes he'd have bowled another low full toss and it would have gone in the crowd. But
I think you're doing a disservice to the amount of power that the brain has over the body.
Well, I don't think I am. And I think evidence in this field would suggest I'm right. But I thought this was a really good illustration of that, of how pressure isn't all it's cracked up to
I
be,
think this
basically.
is a very good example of confirmation bias. So there you go.
No, but it isn't, because I have got, what I'm doing is I'm showing our listeners and our audience a very concrete example of pressure not being a factor to counter the narrative that you will hear, the erroneous narrative that you will hear on commentary often about how important pressure is.
Based on your predisposed belief that is an erroneous narrative.
No, because there's loads and loads of evidence from basketball, from baseball. I'm sure someone will do it in cricket at some point. That pressure situations have absolutely no impact on the expected outcome. Like it's just doesn't affect players who got to that level. Because Max, if pressure really was going to be a factor that held you back, you aren't going to make it as a professional sportsman. Like you fail out, somewhere around second team cricket. I think.
I mean, that's a valid point.
Yeah,
I'll take that one. Anyway, we're getting very sidetracked.
Yeah, we are. But that's I don't know. I always think pressure's an interesting thing to talk about. Where do you want to go next in this game? There is quite a lot to do. I want to talk about Moeen's disastrous day out.
Yeah, well, let's do that
because it was quite funny. Max, what I've got on the list. There was a drop and slip, which was a tough chance.
That was a tough one. Yeah. We'll let him off that one.
Then the hilarious miss run out,
Mm.
which was not a tough
Actually, no, there was the second. There were two drops of slip.
Was there a second? Oh, was there
One
the
was
diving
hard.
drop?
There was one
quite
early
hard.
on, which went to him hard. There was the second one, which he had three bites at and grasped. And then there was the run out, which was so bad it looked deliberate.
Yeah, then he came in to bat. I think about third ball, he threw his bat to square leg, trying to play a spin shot. And then in the perfect matchup, Moeen via leg spinner, he got a ball wide of leg stump, slog swept it, and picked out the man on the fence. Took a very good catch. A nice piece of comic relief, in a serious sporting contest, I thought.
Yeah. I mean, he did get Josh Butler, so that was the one bonus from him, and possibly in a situation that he didn't expect. I don't know if Moeen Ali was going to bowl that over had Sander Magala not injured himself, taking that catch shortly before. So that worked out well for him. But I think Moeen Ali. I was saying, I'm surprised they didn't go earlier in their quest to win this game. Moeen Ali, you felt, was the moment when he came in, 2 leg spinners on, brilliant against spin, perfect time in the game for Moeen Ali to go for it, because this is his wheelhouse, this stage of a game, and you were waiting for the fireworks to go off, and they never did they? It was all a bit strange. It was all one of those days.
It was a bit. You said that CSK got chipawked a little bit, and I think they did. And I want to talk about. So we'll put Moeen back in his box. It was funny, but he'll have good days.
He'll come back.
I want to talk about, leading on from that, how Rajasthan went about it. I think on the podcast last week, we were talking with Dan, weren't we, after the Chennai Lucknow game, where Lucknow subbed in an extra seamer at half time.
Yes.
And we were just like, what the hell's going on here? Like, this is some of the worst decision making you will ever see in the IPL. I'm not going to say Rajasthan learnt from that. They probably didn't. They probably just did their due diligence. But they did. What they did do is they, I think, nailed their selection. They brought in Zampa. They, obviously having Ashwin and Chahal helps. I think they gave themselves the flexibility with Root on the bench, didn't they, in case that went wrong? And Root's off spin probably would have, kind of gone okay here. I think the plan was always to bring in Zampa, but they had the backup option there. Rian Parag out the side. We can maybe talk about that a little bit, because he can turn his arm over, but jettisoned. And they kind of executed, didn't they? I really want to talk. I mean, actually, within all of this, another point that I think is worth talking about is the way they used Ashwin to kind of. You remember last season when they really didn't have a long enough batting order, and they bring in Ashwin.
So they sent him in at 3.
Yeah, and he'd pinch block for a bit. Like they were only expecting 12 off 10 balls or something like that.
It was like the Denley role.
Yeah, it was like that. They kind of did that again today, except that Ashwin managed to hit a couple of sixes, and caught up a little bit. He could quite easily have been out for 10 off 12, but it would still have kind of been job done, I think. I think even that decision making really worked. Now, why did they do that? I think they thought that was the safest way to get them to a score of about 180. They basically said, look, we can send in Shimron Hetmeyer now, and we might get 200, and that would virtually certainly win us the match.
We might get 150.
Or we could get 150 and almost virtually, certainly lose. Or get 175 to, 175 is probably a bit on the low end, because it was a good last over from, I want to start calling him Deshasta, but it doesn't work today because he was quite good. So
was it Akash Singh who bowled the last over?
It might have been, sorry. But Deshpande did bowl well anyway, later in the game. It might have been Akash anyway. But what they effectively did was they made the decision to definitely get 180, or to almost certainly get in that kind of 180 range. And I thought that was clever. They put the total up. A good first innings score wins you a lot of games at the Chepauk. 60% of games are won by the team batting first here. They get the numbers on the board. They've got the spin. And I think extra props should go to Chahal, who has to bowl at a whole load of left-handers and walks off with figures not dissimilar from Ashwin. Went for 2 more runs, same number of wickets. I think that's really impressive. Ashwin himself, that ball to Dubé. We'll talk about that in a second. But I think, Max, give some praise to Rajasthan Royals for a heist. Well, not really a heist, but just like an excellently executed plan.
It's interesting because it sort of goes against, doesn't it, the the conventional wisdom of, well, certainly what we like to see in a game of cricket, especially what we've been seeing with the impact player, and that we've seen teams just go for hell for leather a little bit more because they've got that extra comfort blanket, I suppose, safety net in terms of the someone they can bring in and swap out for a bowler. I'm not sure I like it overall as a strategy, the Ashwin plan, but it worked today. It's nice at least to see them having an awareness of where their players fit best. Being aware that the best place for Shimron Hetmeyer to come in is when there's, say, 5 overs left, 4 overs left, and really using those death overs to the fullest, rather than potentially risking losing him early on. And I think the good thing about Rajasthan Royals, they've got clear, as we like to say, role clarity. But they know exactly what they want from all of their players, and it really helps them put a proper display together. And I think you can compare that with what CSK did with their batting orders today, and it doesn't make as much sense, does it? I mean, Shivam Dubé in at 4. Presumably that was maintaining the left-right hand combination thing, but then you got Rayudu coming in at 6. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
It was also it was maintaining the Ashwin sacrifice, I think. Was
yeah.
Like, can we talk about that ball? Because the way he set him up, like a couple of wide ones, and Dubé actually did put one away. Then then he just went straight, a little slower. Dubé was nowhere near it. Dubé actually wasn't out, but still walked off the pitch in ignominy, in shame. Talk about a skill gap, Max. It was more like a skill Grand Canyon.
Yeah, Ash. I mean, you look at. When I say they got your porks, you've got Zampa, Chahal, and Ashwin as a spin trio at the Chipork. It's good, isn't it? That's good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
You're gonna struggle if your game is set on middle over spin and you run into that wall. And maybe the Trent Bolt injury was a blessing in disguise today.
Yeah, do we know what how injured he was? Because I always get a little bit suspicious with moves like this, to be honest. That maybe Trent Bolt, wasn't that injured.
No, maybe it was.
If you're gonna not play your 35-year-old seam bowler, this is the game to not play your 35-year-old seam bowler. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like it actually, just from a selection point of view, I don't think there's really any problem with saying we're going to go with Zampa instead of Trent Bolt for this one. I know Zampa, he has the worst figures of the 3 bowlers. I don't think he bowled particularly badly, and did bowl quite late into the innings. Like he was still bowling with 4 overs left or 3 overs
those
left.
figures were slightly punished by the start of the Dhoni onslaught towards the end, weren't they? But what it does highlight is something that we've seen quite a lot in the last few games, which I find a little strange, but a lot of teams going with 3 overseas players and subbing 1 in.
Yeah, we talked about this.
I'm not that hot on.
We talked about this on Sunday. I think often it's because all teams haven't got a good plan for what they want to do. Yesterday, it was Stubbs and Tim David on the bench, wasn't it? And I kind of thought, like,
why aren't you just playing that?
Yeah, what's the scenario where you're going to pick one over the other? Like, let's think this through. Like, why? What leads you down one path over the other there? I don't really know. Maybe it's because you don't want them to get injured fielding or like some marginal gain like that.
It's happened to Butler. It's happened to McGarla now. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, it's possible. Max, anything else in this game? We've got 3. We'll do the super chats that we've had in from Sudeep now, if not. But it was a pretty good one, wasn't it? Does it tell us anything about CSK? Are they also runs? Is everyone going to beat them at the Chepauk? Tell me.
I think it's on par for what we would expect for CSK this year. They've shown glimpses, but also they've shown that they are fundamentally not as good a side as some of the other teams. For example, Rajasthan Royals, who, let's face it, are looking to alludes to Sudeep's latest super chat, are looking very, very strong.
Yeah, he asked
the competition.
Are Rajasthan Royals head and shoulders the best team? I would probably say that. Power ranking wise, I thought this would be a tough game for them. I thought it would be quite even at Chepauk. But I think they got
being very close, but it was more comfortable than the score says.
Rajasthan probably outplayed. If you break each innings down into 3 phases, you'd probably say Rajasthan won the power play and the death of the first innings. Middle overs went a little bit slow, a little bit of a wobble with Ashwin. Then in the second innings, they won, I'd say, the power play and the middle overs and lost the death.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, 4-1.
4-2.
4-2 in terms of phases. And it looks a little bit closer, I think, than it certainly it could have been. But they need 54 off 18. You normally win once you've managed to get the game to that situation.
As long as it's not this week.
We also saw some strengths of CSK though. They do bat really deep, and Jadeja can hit. Dhoni's found his touch, hasn't he? And Conway got some runs this time. Sudeep also says, which players have made you change your mind about them from pre-season, positive or negative? Not a big sample size, but who is it, Max?
It's Dhoni.
Dhoni.
I thought he might be back, but now I know he's back.
I think I said Kyle Mayers when this last came up. I'd probably stick with that, even though he failed in the last game. I genuinely thought he was rubbish. I thought he shouldn't have been in anyone's squad, let alone in the starting 11. And he's very good. I don't know if he'll stay there. They might drop him for QDK, I think. But
the other one who's changed my mind a bit is King Legend, because I thought for a while he might be having everyone on and stringing them along with this strike rate chat, but now I think he's just fully off the deep end.
Idiot.
I held out some hope.
Yeah. And finally from Sudeep, the Super Trio, like Star Wars, the original trilogy. After watching this IPL, who are India's best top 5?
That's a tough one to answer off the top of your head, isn't it?
It is quite tough. I mean, like, if you're going to go on form, then Gaikwad's in there. Because it's Sudeep asking, we can say Shubman Gill, I think.
Yep.
Then it does get tricky. Hardik at number 5. Can you?
Sanju's been pretty good apart from today.
Sanju Samson with hand injured, I think.
Yeah.
Gets in there.
And then Rinku Singh, obviously.
Yeah. Do we have any left-handers in there? Do we need any left-handers?
Don't need them.
Right, cool. Max, we're going to hit the break button, then we're going to come back and talk about the games from earlier in the week.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast, where we need to talk to you about our sponsor, after which we will talk about Mumbai Indians v CSK and Lucknow against RCB. Max, Manscaped are presenting this show. You can use the code CricketPod for 20% off at manscaped.com. What do Manscaped purvey?
Manscapes are the finest purveyors of below-the-belt grooming, Jack. That's what they are. Your ball shavers, your deodorant, your face hole hair clippers. That's another thing that they offer. And it can all be yours for 20% off and free shipping if you head over to manscaped.com and use the code CricketPod. That's manscaped.com and the code CricketPod. 20% off and free shipping. And it's all good stuff. Take our word for it.
It is top stuff. We've used it. We got the product. Not eliminate, but cut down on your cuts and nicks and all of that.
Yep.
And keep yourself tidy down there. Cricket Pod at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. Get your order in. Max, we're going to talk about Mumbai now. Mumbai v Delhi. I build this match in my head as two bald men.
It's the wooden spoon off.
Two bald men fighting over a comb.
Yep.
And it really did have that vibe. But it was a hell of a lot of fun. Like, it was a real, they got down and dirty in the gutter fighting over that comb.
Each tore out the other's remaining follicle.
Yes. I don't think I've seen anything from either of these two teams that suggests that they're actually going to have a good season. But I think this is more the case for CSK than Delhi. They've shown that they can kind of have some fun. And
Mumbai.
Yeah,
I assume you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mumbai rather than Delhi. And
No,
go on.
I'm dead worried for Delhi. It's looking bad. I mean, David Warner, elder statesman, playing like an elder statesman as he shuffles around at the top of the order, and it was left to Axar Patel to get them any runs at all. He is the one probably shining light, isn't he, of this Delhi side at the moment? And in response, Rohit Sharma returned to some form. Ishan Kishan briefly returned to some form, and Tilak Varma, as Anand said, Tilak at 4 in our India top 5. I think that's a fair shout. He's been really good this year around what's really been a stinking pile of crap.
I mean, it's astonishing. Yeah, I mean, he's bad now.
Talk to me.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I can't even remember. Like, he's been binary for so long. I can't even remember when he used to be good. I mean, I think we should consign him to the scrap heap of T20 history as a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
But join Harry Brook in the dunce bus. Get them home.
Despite the good start from Mumbai, they ended up somehow being behind the 8 ball, didn't they? And they needed like a quick finish, and it looked like Delhi were going to do it. And then Cameron Green started to edge away from the pack in the flop of the year competition with a couple of lusty blows, and then the magic 5 off the final over. Now, if ever you wanted a display of how to bowl Yorkers in the final over of an innings, this was it.
I like this.
Unbelievable from Nortje.
Starting with a positive from the loser. Look, Nortje, he hadn't really turned up, as they'd say, in lower league football in England, the tournament so far. And then like the last 2-3 overs, I think it was about 2 overs at the death, he put on a masterclass of nailing Yorkers. Like, he was really, really incredible and properly didn't deserve to be on the losing side of this one.
And he probably wouldn't have done if David Warner could throw.
Yeah. No, David Warner got angry at everyone else's throws, but didn't. Nearly defending 5. It was pretty nuts that that Mumbai hadn't won this earlier. It was like you could tell that neither of these teams had won a game, and I kind of thought, Delhi's point of view, I mean, how many different ways do you want to lose a match over 40 overs? I've got sort of a little list of things that they did wrong. But first of all, David Warner's mystifying innings. His third runnable 50 of the tournament.
Yeah, is he second or third in the orange cap race now, and at a strike rate of 150?
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, they actually even with that happening though, they actually are doing okay, and then they have a collapse. Yash Dul gets 2, Rothman Powell gets 4. Rothman Powell's averaging 2 against spin this year.
Oh yeah, can we have a little a little moment for Rothman Powell's attempts to pick googlies to Piyush Chawla?
Lalit Yadav gets 2, so they go for they're well on top of the game. If you were doing win vis, you'd say they were 60% favourite before Manish Pandey gets out. Then they lose those 4 wickets, and even at that point, it's probably about 50-50. It wasn't necessarily an easy surface to bat on. Akshar Patel goes ballistic, gets 54 off 25, puts them in an unbelievable position. They've still got 2 overs to go. Then Jason Behrendorff bowls an over that goes for 1 run, and Delhi lose 4 wickets.
Oh, yeah.
Like it properly doesn't get worse than that. If you're a Delhi fan, you're thinking, look, we're going to be 2-1. Maybe we're back in the tournament. I don't know.
And also just included the random suicidal run out from Kuldeep, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it wasn't necessarily Behrendorff being brilliant. There was, I say they did like 3 wickets in an over. It was quite good, but the run out, strange. Even then, they get an okay score. How do they start off their innings? By being as bad as possible with the ball.
Well, not only that, the thing that I found perplexing was they basically just Well, I mean, yeah, partly because of the bad bowling. They gave Mumbai a 40-run head start, essentially. But
Yeah,
we'd
well, they
seen
conceded
up to this,
42 off 3 overs, Max.
yeah, but we'd seen up to this point, Pierce Shaw take 3 for 22. Like Shakeen was a bit expensive, but that was I think mainly 1 over from what I can remember, and he looked quite difficult to play. And they started with 4 overs of seam that went all over the place, and I just don't know why they didn't chuck an over of spin on earlier on when they had so much of it available. I mean, Kuldeep only ended up bowling 2 overs. I know he was expensive, but I mean, both the finger spinners were tricky to play. I think they missed a trick, not getting one in a bit earlier.
I think that's probably fair. I think that's probably fair.
It was all over the place, wasn't it? Just
okay. So they basically lost the game, and then they decide, oh, actually, maybe we'll try and win it. They do bring the spinners on. They pick up a wicket. They really do squeeze it. What do they make it? It was 52 required off the last 6 overs, which wasn't necessarily going to be easy. They get it down, Max. They get it down. I think it was 20 off the last 10. 10 balls? 9 balls? They're really in the game. And then Mustafizur, who has been a banker at the death, a really good bowler at the death, goes 6-1-6 to throw away their position of strength. Norkia then nearly wins it. You know, brilliant stuff. There's a drop catch, all sorts of things going on. We should mention that they dropped Tim David in the last over. That's not ideal, but they can still nearly win it. 2 required off the last ball. A wicket wins it. And then somehow Tim David manages to accidentally hit the ball so gently into the outfield that the 2 big guys can get 2. I feel sorry for Delhi fans. I think it's probably season over, to be honest, already. And they've been unlucky. They have been unlucky. Like, you can't legislate for, obviously, Pant's injury. You can't legislate for Norkia being terrible in the first game and a half. Prithvi Shaw hasn't got any runs. Mr. Fazul getting smacked in that game. Do you know who their third top scorer is in the tournament, Max? Not excluding extras.
Okay, Delhi Capitals.
Yeah.
Abhishek Parel.
No, Riley Russo has 44 runs.
Riley Russo. Okay.
44 runs.
Dropped.
Yeah, their second top scorer is Akshay Patel with 100, and then David Warner 200.
Hey, like I said, he's looked good, Akshay, with the bat in particular. I mean, that's a bonus, but yeah, I'm worried for him. Where do they go, Delhi, from here? How do they get a win? How do they turn it around? Can they turn it around?
Look, eventually, all these teams have got so much talent packed in that eventually they're going to win a game. Eventually it will be Norkia's day, and he'll take a fourfer, and it will end the game early.
Warner might score at 130 instead of 110.
Yeah, look, Warner might get a century. Rothman Power could blast some runs. There's talented players in it. Even Manish Pandey will occasionally have a day out. They're excellent cricketers. The reality is, with what do they have? Have they played 3 or 4 matches? Let me just double check that, because I don't want to be right. So they played 4 matches. They've lost them all.
Yeah, they're done.
The reality is they're not going to win 8. Even if they play their best cricket from now on, the odds of them winning 8 matches are pretty slim. So it almost certainly is season over. How do they get a win? You just got to kind of stop making mistakes. I mean, it sounds really stupid, but you can't afford runnable 50s in the IPL. Certainly this year's IPL has been a run fest. You can't afford that. You can't afford and this seems to happen in every game, stupid drops. You can't afford, you need to sort of pay attention when you're fielding, and you can't have your first 3 overs of your power play going for 45. You're going to lose lots of matches if you combine scoring
especially
really
when you're
slowly,
trying to defend, 170,
dropping the ball all the time, and getting smacked in the power play.
They look like a team that are down and out and defeated, and they need to pick themselves up. But yeah, this year's too late.
Look, they've got RCB next. would it stun anyone in the world if RCB managed to lose to them?
They'll come back. They'll bounce back now. RCB have had their blip.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's Delhi. Sudeep says another super chat. This is 4. This is Star Wars Episode 1, the bad Star Wars.
Yeah, but the fight scene's good.
It does have a good fight scene. I quite like the Ewan McGregor. What's the other guy called? Liam Neeson combo. Yeah. Darth Maul's a good villain, or looks good. Doesn't say anything.
It was ages before I realised that was Peter Serafinovich.
And I only just realised that now. Sudeep says, thanks for answering all my super chats, boys. This has always been the greatest cricket pod. There you go. That's a fact. That is a fact. Next game, Max, was another thriller. Another game with, what did you say, 5 off the last over in this one as well, but very different circumstances, wasn't it?
It was. And we almost had the moment that we were waiting for. We were asked in the preview show, weren't we, who was going to be the first person to take a mancad, and it was so close to being a potentially match-winning mancad. Maybe people should practice it a bit more.
How do you miss a mancad? How do you do that? But anyway, explain what happened for people who need a refresher.
So RCB, they started really well. Virat Kohli was smashing it around. Faf was blocking it around. Then they swapped over, which worked quite nicely. Glenn Maxwell came in, smashed it around, 212 for 2. Job done. Surely, definitely job done. When you looked at the start that Lucknow got off to, they were 23 for 3 after 4 overs. That was game over. That very quickly became 105 for 5 off 11. They had a lot to do, and Nicholas Puran did a lot. 62 off 19. Unbelievable hitting. Some of the cleanest hitting I've seen in ages. The sound off the bat was resonant and basically took them all the way. And then there was Ayush Badoni won it and then hit his own wicket. Forgot about that bit. Just when you think it can't get any more mental. And it ended up with Harshal Patel trying to defend 5 off the final over. And so very nearly doing it. They needed 1 to win off the final ball. As I said, missed the mancad. And still managed to beat the bat with it. But DK fumbled. And in a rather abject show of flailing around on the floor, failed to throw the stumps down, and they scrambled through for a bye. Avash Khan celebrated by slamming his helmet into the floor, and it was one of the games. I mean, where are we putting this on? I mean, we've got this game, RCB Lucknow. The game that preceded it, Rinku Singh scoring 30 off the last 5 balls, and then Rashid Khan and Rahul Tewatia last year. Where are we? Where are we ranking?
Oh, this is a tough one. I would probably have the Tewatia game above all of them.
Yeah.
The one where he was on like 10
because of the overthrow.
Well, that wasn't really because of the overthrow. No. The Sharjah Tewatia.
Yes, right.
I think that was like the highest ever run chase in the IPL. I think that was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Tewatia literally not being able to hit the ball off the square, and then some of those balls from Sheldon Cottrell, they're still in orbit, aren't they? They're space junk now. That I think was my favourite game. I mean, it's incredible. It's very difficult to rank any of them, to be honest. Like the Rinku Singh one, we were reacting to it straight after the game. It's hard to put into context how good that was. I think someone did the maths on like how often 5-6s get hit in an over, and it's something like once every 8,000 to 10,000 overs.
Yeah.
Which in
and
IPL
terms,
the
fact that it was to win the game.
Well, this is it. And in IPL terms, that happening, that means you only every 2.5-ish IPLs you're going to get an over that goes for 30. Like, it's an incredibly rare thing. Yeah. Then it happens in the final over, and it coincides almost precisely with the amount of runs they need to do it. And it's like Rinku Singh made it, pretty extra special, didn't it?
Yeah.
That was incredible. This game probably isn't at the level of those.
Yeah.
I would say, but it's certainly a 10 out of 10.
If
the other two just might be 11s.
If Puran had maybe finished it in the final over, scoring 62 off 90, then it's up there.
Puran's performance is an 11 out of 10. Like that'll be innings of the season. We were talking about Shardul Thakur having innings of the season. Move over. 62 off 19 balls. He's taken his team from nowhere to win this game. Having a great IPL, fully paid back the amount of money spent on him. Like he looks like a bargain now. You see some of the loot spent on other guys that are having pretty miserable years. He's hit 14 sixes. Single-handedly won a game, basically. It's great. And I think the end of this one was with Ravi Bishnoi running into the outfield and, as you said, Avesh Khan slamming his helmet down. DK losing the ball under his own leg and then kind of hurling it aimlessly. And it had, I think it's always great, like a single to win off the last ball or a run out in those situations because you have so many players around the bat. RCB, they had a short mid-wicket and a short cover. They had obviously the wicket keeper, the bowler. You got the two guys running up and down, the umpire. You have all this drama happening on the TV, all in one place. Like it's like a visual feast for your eyes, isn't it? And I think the games are generally better as well when or games are more fun when the team chasing wins rather than just fall short. It just feels
they always
like,
need to be in it, don't they?
It feels like a proper denouement. No, I mean like if they actually get over the line right at the end, I feel like that.
Unless it's like a wicket off the final ball to win it. They need like 2 to win, and there's an unbelievable in-swinging Yorker and Carl.
See, I think in that circumstance though, the bowling team, I still.
I think it just needs to end on there needs to be a level of catharsis at the end.
Maybe. I think there needs to be some drama happening. I think like a run, like an actual run to win the game. Yeah, is in some ways more visually pleasing than 2 sixes even or Rinku Singh than the actual physical act of hitting a six. I think is what I'm getting at. It was great. I mean, it was absolutely remarkable, and Puran was fantastic. Do you want to talk about some of the fallout from the game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where would you like to start?
King Legend, I don't know if you heard his quote, absolutely hilariously bad innings. He gets out and gives his team a chance. That literally is a game-changing moment when King Legend gets out. Then after the game, they're like, do you think you batted a bit slow, mate, basically? And he's like, nah, if I'd been in, we'd have won even more easily. So what are you talking about, pal?
Unbelievable thing to say when the person who literally came in to replace you... I mean, what?
Just be a little bit magnanimous and say I wasn't timing it, but thankfully Puran came in and saved the day. Yeah, say that. Dude. It's not that hard, is it? Say I wish I'd scored a little bit quicker, and then we wouldn't have needed a miracle. We wouldn't have needed our wicket keeper to pull innings of the season out of his arse to save the game here. Come on, dude. Come on. Just show a little bit of appreciation for somebody else's exploits, and accept maybe 18 off 20 wasn't ideal when you needed 12 and over from Paul Dot.
It's not ideal when you're chasing 150.
Come on, I just want to go back. Max, give me a second. And then we'll talk about Kohli. I just want to go back and see what, because I quite like looking at the what do you call it? The win predictor, and it's all up.
It's one of the most ridiculous win predictors I've ever seen.
Have you seen it? So I just wanted to get what extreme how extreme it got and for how long. Because Rinku Singh, we were talking about this on Sunday. He hit 4 sixes. And it still was impossible. It was still a 1% chance to win the game off the last ball. I just want to see how long it was. Wow, that's incredible. Looking at that. So basically, if you want to know what it looks like a cliff. It's RCB have won this game from the beginning of the innings, and the wickets that fall early, and the run rate. They've won the game, and then that's got to be 3 overs. They go from a 93% chance of winning RCB to a 8% chance of winning. So that's Puran. That's incredible. Top stuff. The other fallout was from Simon Dool.
Oh, yes.
He said Virat Kohli took 10 balls to reach 42 to reach 40, to get from 42 to 50. He says it in a weird way, but he says to get to 40 from 42 to 50. Concerned about a milestone, he says. There is absolutely no room for personal milestones in the game anymore. What did you make of this? Because this has really doing the rounds on the internet, Max.
Yeah, it could put a few people's backs up, doesn't it? I think, as a sentiment, I'm fully behind it. Like 100% right. Like totally the way people need to be thinking about the game at the moment. Milestones. I mean, in general, they're they're a construct, aren't they? They're an abstract concept that make absolutely no difference to how the game's gone, and it's 100% right to be thinking of them in that way. I question whether that was actually what was happening in this particular instance. I don't know if it was, he got off to a great start. Virat Kohli was timing the ball nicely and it was off pace. And then the spinners came on, and we've talked about it before, how Virat Kohli plays spin. It tends to find it's more difficult to score boundaries, and that's probably what happened. I would counter that by saying 2 balls after he got to 50. Well, yeah, he got to 50, and then the second ball after that, he did hit Krunal Pandya for 6 immediately. So maybe he was playing for the 50, but I doubt it. But the general sentiment, like, completely right. Simon Dawes right to be calling this out. He called out Babar Azam in the PSL. I mean, we've been doing that for ages, but nice that someone in the media is finally doing it as well. So I have a lot of sympathy for him.
I think Kohli not being aggressive enough against spin and not being aggressive enough because of reaching milestones, 2 sides of the same coin. I don't think it matters how or what he attributes the slowdown to. Like the facts are that he took 10 balls to get 8 runs after he was on 42 from 25. If he'd been out on the 25th ball with 42 runs scored, then you would say, What a great innings. What a great innings! And he ends up walking off with an innings, and we'll talk about what the repercussions are in a second. With an innings that isn't very good, like in the context of the match, like it is probably a net negative innings. In fact, I don't have any problem with a commentator saying it might be because he's concerned about a milestone. Like you can say,
he's perfectly right to say that. I'm just saying I don't know if that was necessarily the reason in this instance, but it's a perfectly acceptable thing to say.
We will never know that, but it like you say, it was a little bit of a coincidence that this is when it happened. And I get that it probably is partly because he's not as good against spin, but that's Kohli's problem. Like that's not You can't say, well, Kohli's not good against spin, so it's fine for him to slow down against it. Like that's not a rational thought through statement to make. What you need to do is attribute like blame here, and you need to say that Virat Kohli's slowdown here has had repercussions on the rest of the match, and it's not good enough. And if he's gonna play spin this way, it's gonna be a problem, and he needs to decide to play spin differently. Whether that's getting out or hitting it, doesn't matter. But like you have to play with a level of intensity, and that frankly wasn't there for this period of the game.
Yeah, I mean if you're scoring 10 off 12 or whatever it is, but at the same time you're playing attacking shots and it's not coming off, I think that is a different thing to if you're just tapping singles. I don't recall or know what the attacking shot percentage was at the time, so I'm not going to level any accusation.
It wasn't like, oh wow, it's an amazing stop on the boundary. But that way.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be that. I mean, you can try and hit boundaries and not time it. I mean, that's another outcome.
I wouldn't say that's what it was.
Not quite. What you would say is you look at a score of 212-2, and you think you maybe left something out there, but. That said,
100%
the flip side is KL Rahul scored 18 of 20, which is so much worse and makes like Virat Kohli's effort pales into comparison to how detrimental that is. And then you think that realistically, 212, you look at the win probability itself, like they've won that game. And
I don't know.
It took a ridiculous performance from Puran, potentially a bit of dodgy bowling to swing it back.
See, but this isn't because they didn't get 212 because of Kohli though. They got 212 because Glenn Maxwell went ballistic, and because Faf finally woke up. Like the reality is, if you look at it, this is a bit of a simplistic way of going about things. It doesn't always apply, but I think this is a really good example of where it does. 44, like over his 44 balls, he strikes at 138. If you extrapolate that out over the whole innings and say this is what the team was going to score at, you would get 177. That's if you add extras. So you actually get less than that. I've added 12 extras on, so you get 165, I think. But yeah, look, we'll give him the 12 extras. 177 not only loses this match, but it's 13 runs below the average winning score. So like, it's a super slow strike rate.
You gotta be careful though, don't you? Because I mean, sure, like you have an average. The average is, the average of the strike rate for 212. Yeah, what 10.6 and over. So it's just about just 180 or so, 190. I don't know. I don't do the math at the top of my head. I mean, yeah, it's below that, but you're going to have fluctuations either side. You're going to have players who naturally.
For sure. But I don't think if you use 44 balls of the innings, which is more than a third, you can be scoring at a rate which is below the average first innings winning score. Like 188, I think 190. Between those two, both those that stick in my head, is the score that the team batting first, makes on average to win at the Chinnaswamy. Kohli is scoring at a rate which would get them to 165. Even if you add 12 extras, which is quite a lot of extras, you're still way below the rate. Like you can play these innings, but I think you've got to be doing them with that first inning score in mind. Otherwise, what's the point? Otherwise, you're opening the door. Like they could have fully closed the door, and they didn't. Yeah. They allowed for a miracle.
In the end, it worked out that Faf's innings was positive, but equally we could be sitting here looking at that and being like, that's.
Do you know how far
he's taken too long to get going?
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. Do you know a far bigger problem for RCB?
What's that?
Bowling. It's interesting to talk about Kohli, and that was talk of the week. But they are so bad with the ball after the power play. I'd look at the numbers here, Max, and I think this will probably be the end for this game. Yep. They're going at 11 and over with an average of 31 after the 7th over of the match. In the middle overs, it's even worse. They actually go for 11 and over, but the average is in the 40s. So they're just not taking any wickets at all in the middle overs, and they're just getting pumped, basically.
And they've got one of arguably the best middle overs bowlers in the league, at least when he wants to be.
He's going around the park, isn't he? Marshall. Hasaranga is back, but that's a hell of a problem to fix. That's by miles the worst in this league.
Yeah,
and that's ultimately why they're losing these matches. It's not actually because Kohli played suboptimally, which he did, but Kohli probably cost them 5 runs, maybe less. Being awful at bowling has cost them probably 50. Let's look at these things.
I think we have to be rational and look at where it really went wrong.
Yeah, right, Max. We're gonna have another break. Then we've got a shorter than planned analytics corner to round off our Wednesday show.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast for the analytics section. Reminder that we've got 2 sponsors for this show. One is Manscaped, the other is Serious Cricket. Go to seriouscricket.co.uk and use the code TCP23 for 10% off all your cricket equipment for this season. You can get your bats, your gloves, your helmets, your box.
10 days, Jack.
Batting shorts, your jock strap. Have you ever used a jock strap, Max?
No, I haven't.
Well, if you want, you can get one, 10% off.
I've got one of those thigh pads, though, that's goes around. They're good. 10 days till the season starts.
I'll be checking in there, get some stuff myself. Max, we want to talk about some analytics. First, I want to address the question in the chat from Krish. Very important one. If Joss had... if CSK had won the game today, would we have had a go at Joss Buttler for slowing down? The answer?
100%.
A little bit, yeah. The thing is with Joss Buttler, though, is that he doesn't do it every single time he plays. Like, he doesn't have a glaring, great big hole in his game against spin. Like, Joss Buttler, and you can look at this, there's some nice graphs, and I'll direct you towards Flighted Leggy on Twitter to have a look at them. Joss Buttler, he starts off better than average in terms of strike rate. He continues in the middle overs better than average in terms of strike rate, and then he finishes better than average in terms of strike rate. There's no problem with anything that Josh Butler's doing. Might have the odd innings like today where he slows down a little bit, but it's not a symptom. It's not a problem for his game. There's a big difference. There's a big difference. Right. That's one piece of analytics. What do you want to talk about? Harry Brook.
Yes, Harry Brook. So obviously he's had a circumspect start to his IPL career. It's not gone well, and people have written him off. So I thought, and this was my secondary thing I wanted to look at, because what I really wanted to look at was death bowling and the economy rates of different types of delivery, because we've seen a beautiful example of the perils of bowling Yorkers at the death in the last 4 days. We had Nortje nailing it. We had both sides of the coin from Sandeep Sharma today. 2 low fall tosses, which were actually quite hard to get away, which Dhoni smeared, and then following up with 3 really good examples. And then the less said about Yash Dayal's efforts, the better, not to take anything away from Rinku Singh. So I wanted to do that, but the data is not forthcoming, unfortunately.
That's what you could have won.
I don't work for CricViz or Hawkeye, but one day we'll get there. We're working on it. So what I wanted to look at was Harry Brook, 3 games, been bad, and I thought, okay, people are writing off, but what about some storied overseas players in the past, and how have they done in their first seasons in the IPL? So I did a little bit of digging, and at first glance, doesn't look great for poor old Harry. So David Warner, for example, averages 42 at 140 over his career. His first year in 2010, 28 at 148, not bad. Shane Watson's first year in the IPL, unbelievable. Overall, he averaged 31 at 138, and in his first year, 47 at 152, and that's in 2008. That's ahead of the game. So I was slightly concerned that the narrative I was going to push was going to fall by the wayside, but worry not. I've found the perfect example of why Harry Brook is going to be absolutely fine. Have you ever heard of a man called A.B. de Villiers, Jack?
Abraham Benjamin.
Abraham Benjamin. He averaged 40 at 152 over his IPL career, Mr. 360. His first year in 7 games, he averaged 16 at 93 in 2010. That is bad. He was 26 in his inaugural year. Harry Brook's 24. So there's time. There's time yet. De Kock's first year was bad as well. He only played 3 games, but he averaged 2. So there's hope. Don't worry. Harry Brook's got time. He'll bring it back. And don't jump to conclusions.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Did you? I don't know if you had the chance to go into more detail. Did you have a look at so my theory on Brook is that he's being exposed a little bit because he's got a pretty obvious weakness against leg spin. Doesn't necessarily have players around him that make bowling leg spin like a really stupid thing to do. So you can just bring on the leg spinner. Agarwal's decent against spin. Agarwal is decent against spin. Might give him a little bit of protection. Maybe that's why they're opening with the pair of the matches. Not a bad decision. Yeah. But I wonder whether De Kock, I think, had documented problems against off spin, which I wouldn't say completely overcome, but has found somewhat of a solution to. I don't know if you've got the data on A.B. de Villiers, like old A.B. de Villiers. Maybe you can get it up on Crickmetric now and have a look at what his stats were, because I think there were comparisons made, weren't there, about de Villiers and Harry Brook, and I think you probably don't want to jump to conclusions, but he has had a very good start to his Test career, like a very good start in a different format.
I mean, based on Crickmetric, he was bad against everything in his first year.
Okay. Is there anything like in international T20 cricket? I mean, he wasn't so good in international T20 cricket, weirdly, de Villiers.
Actually, right arm fast, he struck at 100 and averaged 11.
But not spin.
But spin, he was okay. Pretty good against leg spin. But
that scotches that theory. Anyway, I'm sure. But what I think eventually will happen is that Brook finds a way to start hitting about leg spin a little bit. Will probably always be a vulnerability, but if he could say strike at 130 and average 30 against it, or even 120, it would be fine. Or if he averaged 20 at 150, and it was just like a huge risk to bring on a leg spinner.
Yeah,
that would be fine too. Just got to go
there's
down
no
one
is
paths.
there that has a clean record against every type of bowling.
Not really.
Not really.
Surya Kumar Yadav got quite close until recently.
Yeah. Well, no, he's still got a clean record against all types of bowling recently. It's just really bad.
The other type of clean. We've got a super chat, and we'll squeeze that in before I talk about my bit. Do CSK still make the knockouts? Ali's woe with the bats and Dubé and Ryder being crapper concerns, depending on Dhoni and Rahane in 2023, can't bode well. Do you think they'll make the playoffs?
I think we had them sort of pushing, didn't we? I don't know whether we were convinced they were going to make it. I think I've seen nothing to change my mind about where I put them at the start of the season. I think the frailties in the middle order are what we'd expect. I think Mo and Ali underperforming is the thing to be concerned about. But otherwise, I think it's pretty much on par with expectations.
I would have them as having a very good chance of making the playoffs, actually. I think they've still got another game against Mumbai at home. They've got to play two against KKR. They have their last 3 matches, I think, are all at the Chepauk. So they'll be all 3 of their last. They've got 3 matches at the Chepauk. Then they play Delhi last, actually. So they've got a nice, quite an easy schedule. 2-2 at this point in the season. They've lost to Rajasthan and Gujarat, who are quite good. 1 away from home. It's not a disaster.
Not at all.
I think they've got a very good chance of getting 6 wins from their next 10. So I'd be reasonably confident.
And there are other teams that have been far worse than expectations.
Yeah. My analysis, Max, is all about sixes. I'd look at the number of sixes that have been hit every year in the IPL. And in World T20 cricket, and compared that to the IPL, actually. And it has been a mental year in the IPL. Do you know how many balls per 6 we're seeing in the IPL this year?
I'm going to say 11.
15.2. It was 13 at one point, and it's gone up a little bit over the last, I think, couple of games, last 3 games, to 15.2, which is, I think, I mean, that's in fact, I know, that's 6 balls higher, or 6 balls lower than the average in T20 cricket last year. So 21 was the average last year.
Nice.
This time it's 15.2. Now, there are obviously some reasons for this. I think playing at some smaller grounds helped. Hello, Chinnaswamy. All of the first half of the season, RCB are playing there, aren't they? So I expect them to get. I expect there to be a few more sixes, and maybe it's a bump up a little bit as we go through the year. The impact sub, obviously, and I think like a combination of a lot of good hitters being available and some good bowlers not being available probably gives it a little bit of a boost. Do you want to know the worst team, Max?
Is it Delhi Capitals?
It is Delhi Capitals. Do you know what they're? Do you want to ballpark their balls per 6 in
120?
No, it's not. It's not a 1-6 match. Basically, because of Akshay Patel, who's quite high up the 6 leaderboard. They're doing 37 balls per 6.
Right.
Which is that's more than double the league average. But if you took Delhi out of the league average, it might be more like triple the league average, which is. I mean, frankly speaking, disastrously bad.
Really bad.
Yeah, really, really awful. Interestingly, we're not seeing a huge difference in the number of 4s hit. This season, it's a 4 every 7.8 balls, which is pretty close to what it has been. Or I mean, it's slightly more than we've seen in the past in T20 cricket, but it's not like ludicrous. It's sort of within the realms of expectations. It's 6s particularly where things have gone bonkers. Delhi doing okay if you want to do Delhi watch on 4s. They're hitting a 4 every 7.4 balls, so better than average.
Yeah, is that one of the? I mean, Prithvi Shaw's not really done it this year, but is that sort of that's one of the criticisms that have been levelled at Prithvi Shaw, isn't it? Maybe
he hits too many 4s.
Too many 4s and not 6s.
Yeah, maybe. It's certainly like one of the things we've said has been good from like Gaikwad, isn't it? That he's hit a bunch of 6s this year and really upped that part of his game. So he's hit 14 6s this year. And I've said this on every show, I think, which is the same number now as he hit the entire whole of last year, which is great intent. I think what this is interesting, or the reason this is interesting, is sort of what this means for the future of the game. And actually, you can really see another trend related to sixes that's sort of coming to the fore, if you like. So first of all, you need to know that the average score in T20 cricket or in the IPL has been going up. I don't think that's news. Started at about 100. Well, it started at 155 in 2008, and then it dropped to like high 140s for a few years, and then in the last decade we've seen a creep up to 160 last year. This year we're in the 170s. It's pretty bonkers. What's also interesting is that we have seen way more of those runs scored in sixes. So back in the day, well, and for quite a long time actually, like really up until 2021, there was the percentage of runs scored in sixes sat between about 20 and 23%. So it's quite consistent. The number of runs going up might have, we might be seeing more runs, but as a proportion, it was roughly the same in terms of sixes. This year, Max, we're up above 28%. So we're seeing a
wow.
big time jump in not only the number of runs, but how teams are going about scoring those runs. And I think that if you were looking at analysis and looking at who might be a player that could develop in the future, I think actually particularly from a bowling point of view, people who can restrict those sixes are going to become, I think, more and more valuable. And obviously, guys who can smack them. We kind of knew that.
An economy rate of 9's looking good now.
But that's a huge change in how things are going. I mean, like 28%, more than a quarter of runs scored in this year's IPL via the long ball, as they would say in baseball. Why is this happening? I've got a few reasons, and if you've got anything to contribute, you can. Teams are batting deeper, so there's evidence for this. Number 7s and 8s, their batting averages is up by 3 runs, striking at, I think, 6 points higher as well. So they're up to they're almost striking at 140 now, which is pretty good going. Obviously, the super sub has a benefit to that, and it also extends the batting lineup, so everyone at the top of the order can be more aggressive. In terms of intent, a huge jump in intent. 42% of balls have been attacked this year versus 37 last year. That's just a different strategy that teams are using now. This is new cricket that we're talking about. We're seeing a completely different game this year, and this is the nuts and bolts of kind of what's happening. Talked about power plays at length last week, so you can go back and listen to that. But the power plays are getting lit up this season. It's not a good time to be a power play bowler. It's not really a good time to be a bowler. It's the message of this. And one of the biggest shifts is the intent and the number and the height and the scores that we're seeing in the first innings. Like it's a record year for first innings scores, which combines these things as well. I mean, historically, we've been very vocal in our criticism of how teams have gone about setting targets. Very difficult to do that this season in the IPL. Almost all the teams seem to have done their homework and be playing in a way that's going to get them to a realistic winning score. So there's my 5-minute spiel on sixes. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, a couple. I mean, all of those obviously make sense. I mean, it all adds up, and the equation makes sense. But I think, I suppose, a couple of other minor things that maybe contribute. I think you talk about the greater depth in the batting. I don't think there's been a corresponding increase in the depth of the bowling.
No, and big bowlers are out. Big bowlers are out.
Definitely, and I think there's possibly. I mean, the pitches generally, that Lucknow pitch aside, have looked pretty good. That's probably contributed, and I think partly, we've seen a couple of years where the cricket's not been played well at home and away. Obviously, at a couple of years, or at least a year and a half in the UAE. And that's happened over a period of time where we've seen T20 cricket develop into what it is now and what we're seeing with the aggression in the power play and six hitting being the order of the day. So it may also partly be all of that coming back to India with some potentially better pitches and sort of home crowds, home advantage, and seeing that add to it as well. But I think they're probably slightly more, I don't know, circumstantial to those other things that you mentioned.
Right, Max, we've got one last super chat to finish us off from Shubham, which has just come in. Can Mumbai Indians reach the playoffs? Huge MI fan, missing the old MI, where after 7 wickets, Krunal and Pollard would be at the crease. It was a mighty team with bowlers like Malinga and Bumrah defending 25 from 29. Can they make the playoffs? Well, only one of the teams that played yesterday, I think, could make the playoffs after that game, and it is Mumbai.
I don't fancy their chances.
It's a long shot, but it is a shot. There is, let's give them 10% chance or something like that, 15% chance.
Sky gets back into form. They can bat teams out of the game, but given what we've just discussed, maybe they can't.
Cool. Right, Max, it's a long one today. There's a lot of cricket to talk about, though. It was a pretty good day for the sport.
Yeah.
So we're going to head off
to cover it all. And I'm going to watch Chelsea get spanked by Real Madrid.
Cool. Bye.